What happens when a prince loses his cool on live television and makes demands that shock an entire nation in just 38 seconds? One comment turned a routine morning show into absolute chaos. And what followed was a meltdown nobody saw coming. But before we get into the explosive details, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're pulling back the curtain on royalty's dark side, exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts on this outrageous behavior, because what you're about to witness is truly unbelievable. The morning started like any other at the Good Morning America studio in New York City. The lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and Lara Spencer sat in her chair with that warm, welcoming smile she's known for. She had her notes ready, her questions prepared, and she was excited to have Prince Harry as her guest. This was supposed to be a friendly conversation, a chance for Harry to talk about his latest charitable work, maybe share some lighthearted stories. Nobody, and I mean nobody, expected what was about to unfold. Harry walked onto the set, and right away, something felt off. Lara stood up to greet him like she does with every guest, extending her hand for a friendly handshake, but Harry just looked at her hand, didn't take it, and walked straight past her to his seat. Lara's smile faltered for just a second, but being the professional she is, she brushed it off and sat down, ready to begin. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness," Lara said, her voice cheerful and bright. "Thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here." Harry shifted in his seat, his face already showing signs of irritation. "Let's just get on with it," he said, his tone clipped and cold. Lara blinked, taken aback by the abruptness, but she maintained her composure. "Of course," she said, glancing down at her notes. "I'd love to start by talking about your recent work with veterans. It's such an important cause, and our viewers would love to hear about it." "They would they?" Harry interrupted, leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed. "Or is this just another excuse for you to dig into my personal life?" The studio went silent. You could feel the tension building. Lara's eyebrows raised slightly, but she kept her smile in place. "Not at all," she said gently. "We're genuinely interested in the amazing work you're doing. That's why we invited you here," Harry scoffed. "Right, because American television is so interested in charity work. Come on, Lara, we both know what this is really about." Lara took a breath, clearly trying to steer the conversation back on track. "I assure you, we're here to talk about whatever you're comfortable discussing," she said. "Your work, your projects, anything you'd like to share with our audience." "My audience," Harry corrected her, his voice sharp. "These people tune in to see me, not you. Let's be clear about that." A few crew members exchanged glances. This was getting uncomfortable fast. Lara, ever the professional, pressed on. "Well, our viewers are certainly excited to hear from you," she said. "So let's talk about the veteran support program you've been involved with. Can you tell us what inspired you to get involved?" Harry rolled his eyes. "What inspired me? Do you really need to ask that? It's obvious, isn't it? Or do I need to spell everything out for you?" Lara's smile was starting to look strained, but she refused to let him rattle her. "I think our viewers would appreciate hearing it in your own words," she said calmly. "Your viewers," Harry said, emphasizing the words mockingly, "probably can't even locate the UK on a map. Why am I wasting my time here?" That comment hit hard. You could see Lara's jaw tighten, but she maintained her professionalism. "I think you'd be surprised by how informed and engaged our audience is," she said, her voice still kind, but with a hint of firmness. "They care deeply about the issues we discuss." Harry waved his hand dismissively. "Sure they do. Look, can we just skip the boring questions? If you want ratings, ask me something interesting." Lara paused, clearly trying to figure out how to salvage this interview. "All right," she said. "What would you like to talk about?" "Now you're asking me to do your job?" Harry shot back. "Isn't that what they pay you for? To come up with questions?" The atmosphere in the studio was beyond tense now. Lara set her note card down and looked directly at Harry. "I'm trying to have a respectful conversation with you," she said, her voice steady. "But you seem upset about something. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Harry snapped. "What's not fine is being treated like I'm just another celebrity here to boost your ratings. I'm royalty. There's a difference." Lara nodded slowly. "I understand you have a unique background," she said. "But here on Good Morning America, we treat all our guests with the same respect and courtesy. That includes you, and it includes our audience." Harry leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Respect? You want to talk about respect? How about the fact that I was kept waiting in the green room for 15 minutes? Do you have any idea who I am? There was a technical delay with the previous segment, Lara explained calmly. It affected our entire schedule this morning. We apologize for any inconvenience. Inconvenience? Harry's voice rose. I don't wait for anyone. That's not how this works. When I arrive, you start. It's that simple. Lara's expression remained composed, though you could see the frustration starting to peek through. I understand you're used to a certain protocol, she said, but this is a live television show. Sometimes things happen that are beyond our control. Then maybe you need better control, Harry said coldly. Maybe you need to run a tighter ship. Or maybe you're just not qualified to interview someone of my stature. That did it. The crew members were visibly uncomfortable now, shifting in their positions behind the cameras. Lara took a deep breath, and you could see her making a choice to remain professional, despite the blatant disrespect. I've been doing this job for many years, Lara said, her voice calm but firm. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, celebrities, activists, and countless others. I approach every interview with the same level of preparation and respect, regardless of who's sitting in that chair. Harry laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. It was condescending, mean. Presidents? He repeated. World leaders. And now you're comparing them to me? I'm born into royalty. They're elected. There's a hierarchy here that you clearly don't understand. What I understand, Lara said, her patience clearly wearing thin, is that every person deserves to be treated with dignity. That includes our crew, our audience, and yes, our guests. But it goes both ways. Are you seriously lecturing me right now? Harry asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. You, a talk show host, are lecturing me about dignity? Do you know what my family has done for centuries? The history we carry? Lara remained calm. I'm not lecturing anyone, she said. I'm simply trying to have a conversation, but if you're not interested in doing that respectfully, then maybe we need to reconsider this interview. Reconsider? Harry's face turned red. You can't reconsider anything. I decide when this interview is over, not you. Actually, Lara said, her voice taking on a steely edge, this is my show, and while I've tried to be accommodating and understanding, I won't allow anyone, regardless of their title, to be disrespectful to me, my team, or our viewers. Harry stood up abruptly, his microphone nearly yanking off his lapel. This is unbelievable, he said loudly. Do you know what kind of opportunity you're throwing away right now? Do you have any idea how many shows would kill to have me on? Then perhaps you should go to one of those shows, Lara said, standing up as well. Her voice was steady, controlled, but you could hear the steel underneath. Because here at Good Morning America, we value mutual respect. Mutual respect? Harry's voice was getting louder with each word. I don't need to respect you. You're a nobody. You're just someone who reads off a teleprompter. I am a prince. My blood is royal. Your blood is, what, common? Regular? You should be honored that I even agreed to sit here. The entire studio gasped. That comment crossed every line imaginable. Lara's expression hardened, and for the first time, you could see real anger flash in her eyes. I think we're done here, Lara said firmly. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're asking me to leave? Harry looked genuinely shocked, as if the concept was foreign to him. You can't ask me to leave. I'm the guest. I'm the reason people are watching this right now. No, Lara said, her voice strong and clear. You're a guest who has been disrespectful from the moment you walked in. You've insulted me, you've insulted my crew, and you've insulted millions of viewers. I've given you multiple opportunities to have a civil conversation, and you've refused every single one. So yes, I'm asking you to leave. Harry's face was crimson now. This is outrageous, he shouted. Do you know what kind of backlash you're going to face? Do you know who I am? You've mentioned that several times, Lara said dryly, but right now you're someone who needs to leave this studio. I'm not going anywhere until I'm ready, Harry said, crossing his arms defiantly. Lara turned to someone off camera. Can we get security, please? Security? Harry's voice went up an octave. You're calling security on me? On a prince? This is insane. You're insane. I'm protecting my crew and maintaining the integrity of this show, Lara said. You've been given every chance to behave appropriately, and you've chosen not to. The consequences of that are yours to own. Harry pointed his finger at Lara, his hand shaking with anger. You're making the biggest mistake of your career, he said. Do you understand that? When word gets out about this, you're finished. Finished. I'll take my chances, Lara said calmly. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the set. Harry looked at them, then back at Lara, his expression a mix of disbelief and fury. "This is how you treat royalty in America?" he asked, his voice dripping with contempt. "This is your hospitality? This is how we treat anyone who can't show basic respect," Lara replied. "Title or no title?" Harry ripped the microphone off his jacket, the wire snapping as he did so. "You haven't heard the last of this," he said, his voice low and threatening. "I promise you that." "I'm sure we haven't," Lara said. "But right now, you need to leave." The security guard stepped closer, and Harry finally seemed to realize this was actually happening. His face went through a rapid series of emotions: shock, anger, embarrassment, and finally, indignation. "Fine," he spat. "I don't need this circus anyway. You're all beneath me." He turned and stormed toward the exit, but not before turning back one more time. "And for the record," he shouted, "your ratings are going to tank without me. Nobody wants to watch you. They want to watch people like me. Real celebrities. Real importance." Lara didn't respond. She just stood there, composed and dignified, watching him leave. The security guards followed Harry as he made his dramatic exit, his footsteps echoing through the suddenly silent studio. Once he was gone, Lara took a deep breath and turned back to the camera. Her hands were slightly shaking, but her voice was steady. "Well," she said with a small, genuine smile, "that was unexpected." We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have a wonderful segment on community gardens that I think you're really going to enjoy. The camera cut away, and the studio erupted in a mixture of nervous laughter and relieved sighs. Crew members rushed over to Lara, checking if she was okay, praising her for how she handled the situation. Lara just nodded, still processing what had just happened. "Is this really going out live?" someone asked. "Every second of it," another crew member confirmed. Lara sat back down in her chair, smoothing out her outfit. "Well," she said to her team, "I guess we're going to be trending today." And trend they did. Within minutes, social media exploded with reactions to what had just happened. People couldn't believe what they'd witnessed. A prince actually kicked off a morning talk show for his behavior. It was unprecedented. But here's the thing that stood out to everyone watching. Lara never lost her cool. Not once. Even when Harry was at his worst, even when he was hurling insults and making demands, she remained professional, calm, and firm. She gave him chance after chance to correct his behavior, and when he refused, she did what needed to be done. People praised her for standing up not just for herself, but for her crew and her audience. She didn't care about his title or his status. She cared about respect, plain and simple. And when that respect wasn't given, she wasn't afraid to enforce boundaries. Let's talk about some of the specific things Harry said that really crossed the line. When he suggested that Americans couldn't locate the UK on a map, that wasn't just insulting to the audience. It was revealing a deep-seated arrogance, a belief that he was somehow better than everyone else in that room. And Lara, to her credit, defended her viewers without being defensive herself. Then there was the comment about Lara being just someone who reads off a teleprompter. Anyone who knows anything about television knows that hosting a live show is incredibly difficult. You're managing time, guests, technical issues, breaking news, all while keeping millions of people engaged. It takes skill, intelligence, and years of experience. To reduce that to reading off a teleprompter was not only inaccurate, it was deliberately demeaning. But the worst comment, the one that really sealed Harry's fate, was when he talked about royal blood versus common blood. That kind of thinking belongs in a different century. It's the kind of elitism that people have fought against for generations. The idea that someone is inherently better than someone else based on the family they were born into, that's not just outdated, it's offensive. And Lara's response was perfect. She didn't get angry. She didn't yell back. She simply said, "I think we're done here." Those 5 words carried so much weight. They said, "I've heard enough. I've given you enough chances. This ends now." Throughout the entire encounter, you could see Lara trying to salvage the interview. She pivoted, she rephrased, she gave him openings to change course. A lesser host might have gotten defensive or aggressive right away, but Lara understood that her job was to facilitate a conversation, and she gave Harry every opportunity to have that conversation. When he complained about waiting 15 minutes, she explained the technical delay. She didn't make excuses. She just provided context. When he questioned her qualifications, she calmly stated her experience without bragging or getting defensive. She took the high road at every single turn. And here's something interesting. Watch Lara's body language throughout the interview. Even as things got heated, she maintained open, non-threatening posture. She didn't cross her arms. She didn't lean away. She stayed engaged, trying to connect, trying to understand where this hostility was coming from. Harry, on the other hand, was closed off from the start. Arms crossed, leaning back, avoiding eye contact. His body language screamed that he didn't want to be there, that he felt above the whole situation. And his words confirmed what his body was saying. When Lara finally called for security, you could see it wasn't a decision she made lightly. She'd exhausted every other option. She'd tried kindness. She'd tried professionalism. She'd tried firmness. Nothing worked. Harry was determined to be difficult, and at a certain point, Lara had to protect her show and her team. The moment Harry ripped off his microphone was particularly telling. It was such a childish gesture, like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And the way he snapped the wire? That was destruction of property, pure and simple. But even then, Lara didn't react with anger. She just maintained her composure and waited for him to leave. Harry's parting shots, about Lara's career being over and ratings tanking, they revealed someone who truly didn't understand what had just happened. He thought he was the draw, the reason people watched. He didn't realize that people tune in for hosts like Lara, people who are warm, genuine, and trustworthy. Guests come and go, but a good host is the foundation of a show. And let's talk about that moment right after Harry left, when Lara turned back to the camera and smoothly transitioned to the next segment. That's not easy to do. She'd just been through an incredibly stressful confrontation, broadcast live to millions of people, and she had to immediately shift gears and be upbeat about community gardens. That takes serious skill and professionalism. The way the crew rallied around Lara after the cameras cut away, that tells you everything you need to know about her character. These people work with her every day. They know what kind of person she is. And their immediate instinct was to check on her, to support her, to praise her for how she handled things. That doesn't happen unless you've built real relationships based on mutual respect. Think about what this interview could have been. Harry could have come in, been charming and gracious, talked about his charitable work, shared some heartwarming stories, and left everyone feeling good. Instead, he chose to be combative, disrespectful, and entitled. And those choices had consequences. Lara gave him a platform, an opportunity to reach millions of Americans and share his message. That's a gift, not something to be taken for granted. But Harry treated it like a burden, like he was doing everyone a favor just by showing up. That kind of attitude doesn't fly, no matter who you are. Throughout the entire confrontation, Lara never brought up Harry's past controversies or tried to score points by going on the attack. She could have. She could have reminded him of his own public missteps or called out his hypocrisy. But she didn't. She stayed focused on the present moment, on the behavior happening right in front of her. When Harry accused her of wanting to dig into his personal life, she immediately redirected to his charitable work. When he insulted the audience, she defended them without being defensive. When he questioned her qualifications, she stated her experience as fact, not as a boast. Every single move she made was the right one. And here's the thing, Lara had the power in that situation, even though Harry thought he did. She's the host. It's her show. She controls the flow of conversation, the topics discussed, the length of segments. Harry walked in thinking his title gave him power, but he fundamentally misunderstood how television works. The security guards appearing at the edge of the set, that was a moment of truth. Up until then, maybe Harry thought Lara was bluffing. Maybe he thought she'd back down. But when those guards appeared, reality set in. This was really happening. He was really being asked to leave. His reaction was fascinating. First shock, like he couldn't believe it. Then anger, doubling down on his behavior. Then embarrassment, realizing this was being broadcast live. And finally, defiance, trying to maintain some sense of dignity by making it seem like his choice to leave. But everyone watching knew the truth. He didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because he was asked to. He left because his behavior was unacceptable. He left because even a prince has to follow basic rules of decency. Lara's final words before the commercial break were perfect. That was unexpected, understated, honest, and tinged with humor. She didn't trash Harry. She didn't rant about what had happened. She just acknowledged the weirdness of the moment and moved on. Class act all the way. The segment about community gardens that came after must have been such a relief for everyone. Something positive, uplifting, normal, a palate cleanser after the toxicity of the Harry interview. And you can bet Lara gave that segment her full attention and enthusiasm, because that's what professionals do. Think about the other guests who were scheduled for that show. They're backstage, watching this unfold, probably thinking, "Do I still want to go out there?" But Lara's handling of the situation probably reassured them. She showed that she creates a safe, respectful environment, and she'll protect that environment even if it means making hard decisions. This whole incident raises interesting questions about celebrity culture and entitlement. Just because someone has a famous name or a title, does that mean they can treat people however they want? Most of us would say no, but people in positions of power or fame sometimes seem to think the rules don't apply to them. Harry came into that studio with a chip on his shoulder. Maybe he'd had a bad morning. Maybe he was frustrated about something else entirely. But none of that justified his behavior toward Lara and her team. They hadn't done anything to him. They'd invited him on, prepared for his arrival, and were ready to give him a warm, friendly platform. The fact that Harry refused to shake Lara's hand at the beginning should have been the first red flag. That's such basic courtesy, especially in American culture. You shake hands. You make eye contact. You smile. These are simple gestures that say, "I'm here in good faith." Harry couldn't even do that much. And then to sit down and immediately say, "Let's just get on with it," like the whole thing was a chore, that set the tone for everything that followed. Lara tried to recover, tried to create warmth and connection, but Harry wasn't having it. Every question Lara asked was reasonable and relevant. She'd done her homework. She knew about his veteran support work. She wanted to give him space to talk about things that mattered to him, but he twisted every question into an attack or an insult. When someone is that determined to be difficult, there's not much you can do. You can't force someone to have a good attitude. You can't make them be kind or respectful. All you can do is maintain your own standards and, if necessary, enforce boundaries. Lara enforced boundaries. She drew a line and said, "This far, no further." And when Harry kept pushing, she followed through on the consequence. That takes courage, especially when the cameras are rolling and millions of people are watching. Imagine being in Lara's shoes in that moment. Your heart is probably pounding. You're calculating the potential backlash, the headlines, the criticism that might come your way. But you also know, deep in your gut, that this is the right thing to do. And so you do it anyway. That's integrity. That's strength. That's standing up for what matters, even when it's uncomfortable or risky. Harry's threats about Lara's career being over were empty and petty. If anything, her career was enhanced by how she handled this situation. She showed that she has principles, and she'll defend them. That's exactly what you want in a host, someone who won't compromise their values for ratings or celebrity access. The comparison Harry tried to make between himself and elected officials was so telling. He seemed to think that being born into royalty made him superior to people who'd actually worked their way to positions of leadership. That's such a backwards way of thinking. Lara's response was measured but firm. She basically said, "I don't care about your title. I care about respect." And that's the right answer. Titles don't give you permission to be rude. Fame doesn't excuse bad behavior. Money doesn't buy the right to mistreat people. When Harry said, "You should be honored that I even agreed to sit here," that was probably the moment when everyone in the studio collectively rolled their eyes. It was so absurdly arrogant, so completely out of touch with reality. Nobody is honored to be disrespected. Nobody is grateful for abuse. Lara's deadpan, "I think we're done here," after the royal blood comment, was everything. Those 6 words contained volumes. They said, "I've heard enough. You've revealed who you are. We're finished." And Harry's shock at being asked to leave? That just confirmed how entitled he felt. In his mind, he could say whatever he wanted without consequences. He could insult the host, the crew, the audience, and everyone would just take it because of who he was. But that's not how the world works. That's not how Good Morning America works. And Lara made sure he learned that lesson, even if he didn't want to. The security guards were professional throughout. They didn't manhandle Harry or make a scene. They just stood there as a physical reminder that it was time to go. Their presence was enough to move things along, which is exactly how good security operates. Harry's final tantrum about ratings and importance was like a child who didn't get their way. It was his last attempt to feel powerful, to convince himself that he was in control, but everyone watching knew better. He'd lost control the moment he decided to be disrespectful. Lara's slight hand tremor after it was over was the only sign of how much that confrontation had affected her. Otherwise, she was poised and professional throughout. That shows incredible emotional control and discipline. The praise from her crew speaks volumes. These people have seen Lara handle thousands of interviews. They've seen her with difficult guests before. But the way she handled this particular situation clearly impressed them, and that kind of respect from your colleagues is earned, not given. What makes this whole incident so compelling is that it felt real. There was no script, no planning. It was just two people, one trying to do their job professionally and one making that impossible. And in real time, we got to see how integrity and professionalism win out over entitlement and rudeness. If Harry had just come in with a good attitude, this could have been a lovely interview. He could have talked about causes he cares about, shared interesting stories, connected with the American audience. Instead, he chose confrontation, and it backfired spectacularly. Lara didn't set out to make Harry look bad. Harry did that all on his own. She just held up a mirror and let his own behavior speak for itself. Sometimes the best response to outrageous conduct is simply to remain calm and let people see it clearly. The internet's reaction was swift and decisive. People rallied behind Lara, praising her for standing her ground. They saw through Harry's act immediately and recognized what was really happening. Someone with a title trying to use it as a weapon and failing. This moment will probably be remembered as a turning point in how we think about celebrity interviews. Hosts don't have to tolerate abuse. They don't have to smile and nod while being insulted. They can set boundaries and enforce them, and audiences will respect them for it. Lara Spencer handled an impossible situation with grace, strength, and professionalism. She protected her team, respected her audience, and maintained her integrity. That's what a great host looks like. That's what true professionalism looks like. And Harry? He learned that titles don't protect you from consequences. That respect is earned, not demanded, and that when you treat people badly, especially on live television, the whole world sees exactly who you are.